the question that is asked is, if the source of ego is our fundamental awareness, I am, our own being, and if Bhagavan calls ego the formless demon, how can a demon be associated with our fundamental awareness as its source? Where am I getting confused here? Thanks. That is, our source is the fundamental awareness, I am. I am is not only the source of ego, it is also the substance of ego. The substance of ego means what ego actually is. But ego is a demon because it rises as I am this body. In other words, it identifies itself with something other than what it actually is. That is why it is a demon. Because by mistaking itself to be something other than what it actually is, it deludes itself. When I say it itself, we're referring to us. That is what ego is not something other than us. Ego is what we now seem to be. Because we are now aware of ourselves, I am this body, I am this person, we are thereby not aware of ourselves as we actually are. So this ego is a demon. So the reality of this demon is the pure awareness I am. Ego is, Bhagavan refers to ego as a demon, as a pei. A pei means evil spirit that possesses. That pei is a Tamil equivalent of a Sanskrit word pisasa. That's a class of demon who are notorious for possessing people. So like a person, like a demon who possesses a person, this ego has possessed us, so to speak. That's why he calls it a demon. But when he says it is formless, we need to understand what he means. It is formless because it has no form of its own. Since it has no form of its own, it's got no separate existence. So ego seems to have a separate existence only when it grasps the form of a body as I. That's why the verse in which Bhagavan refers to ego as a formless demon, as Uruvatra is verse 25 of Uludunapadu. It's in the last line of that verse that he gives this description, Uruvatra Hande, the formless phantom ego. But what he says from the beginning of that verse is, Urupatri undam, grasping form, it comes into existence. That is, without grasping form, it has no separate existence. So there's no such thing as ego until it grasps form. So when he says grasping form, it comes into existence, that means as soon as we rise as ego, we grasp the form of a body as ourself. But this body doesn't exist independent of ego. So the implication is when Bhagavan says grasping form, it comes into existence, as soon as we rise as ego, we project a body, which we experience as I, and then we project this world and everything else. So the first grasping is grasping a body. And the very nature of ego is to constantly grasp, as Bhagavan says, grasping form. Form here means a phenomenon of any kind whatsoever. So the first form we grasp is the form of a body. And body, Bhagavan doesn't mean just the physical form of the body. He says, as he says in verse 5 of Uludunapadu, Udul Pancha Kosa Uru. The body is a form of 5 sheaths. Therefore, all 5 are included in the term body. So when he talks about body, he's referring to all the 5 sheaths. That is the physical form of the body, Annamaya Kosha, as it's called, the life that animates that body, the Pranamaya Kosha, and the mind, intellect, and will that function within that body. These 5, it's what we collectively experience as I whenever we rise as ego. So the first thing we grasp is this body consisting of five forms, this body consisting of five sheaths. And we cannot stand or endure as ego for a moment without constantly grasping this body as I. So in the first sentence, he says, Urupatri undam, grasping form, it comes into existence. In the second sentence, he says, grasping form, it stands. That means it endures by continuing to grasp the form of a body as I. And having grasped the form of a body as I, the ego is then constantly feeding on other forms, as he implies in the third sentence, in which he says, Urupatri undu mika ongam. That means grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes abundantly. It grows. It grows big. It grows abundantly. That means it flourishes. So the food on which ego lives is forms. Forms means things other than itself. So how does it grasp them? It grasps them by attending to them. So throughout the waking and dream state, we are constantly attending to things other than ourselves. That's how this formless demon seems to have a form, because it grasps the form of the body as I, and then constantly feeds on other forms. Then he says, Uruvittu urupatram, leaving form, it grasps form. But why? Because ego cannot for a moment stand without grasping form. So leaving form, it grasps form can be understood in two ways, and both are correct. That is, it means we are constantly attending to things other than ourselves. So if we let go of one thing, we jump onto another thing. That's one sense. In a deeper sense, if we leave one body, we grasp another body. For example, when we wake up from a dream, we leave the dream body and we grasp this waking body. When we fall asleep, and when from this waking state we drift off into dream, we leave this waking body and grasp a dream body. Likewise, at the time of death, when we are forcibly separated from this body, either due to disease or old age or accident or whatever, and once the body becomes unfit to continue living, we leave this body and we grasp another body. Because ego cannot stand without constantly grasping. Well, first it needs to grasp the body as I, and then it needs to be constantly grasping other things. So grasping form is the very nature of ego. This is why Bhagavan refers to ego as a demon. Though it is formless, it has this demonic nature of constantly grasping form, identifying itself as I am this body, and consequently knowing other things. But what is the reality of ego? That is, as Bhagavan often explained, ego is the false awareness, I am this body. The false awareness, I am this body, means it is that which is aware of itself as I am this body. So in this adjunct conflated awareness, I am this body, what is real is I am. What is unreal, the adjunct, is this body. So that's why I said the fundamental awareness I am is both the source from which ego rises and the substance of ego. It's both the source and the substance. The substance means it's what ego actually is. If we remove all adjuncts by holding on to our being, what remains is our being. That is the reality of ego. That is why when we investigate ourselves, when we investigate ourselves, we are trying to hold on to our own being, to what we actually are. To the extent to which we hold on to our being, we thereby let go of other things. So if we hold on to our being firmly enough, the adjuncts will drop off, because the adjuncts are not holding us. We are holding the adjuncts. So if instead of holding the adjuncts, if we try to hold our own being, we try to hold on to I am, the adjuncts will drop off and the pure I am alone will remain. So if we understand it correctly, it's not at all confusing. That is, there's one fundamental reality, I am. This ego is the same I am, mixed and conflated with adjuncts. And that is the source of all trouble. Because all troubles are things other than ourselves that seem to come and affect ourselves. Troubles affect us only when we rise as ego. In sleep, in deep dreamless sleep, we are not affected by any problem or any trouble whatsoever. But as soon as we begin to, as we wake up or begin to dream, we face so many troubles. So the root trouble, the first problem is our rising as ego. That is, and that ego is nothing but a false awareness of ourself. Awareness of ourself as I am this body, instead of just I am. So in order to destroy ego, since ego is a false awareness of ourself, it can be destroyed only by correct awareness of ourself. Correct awareness of ourself means awareness of ourself as we actually are. In order to be aware of ourselves as we actually are, what do we need to do? We need to just attend to ourselves. If we attend to ourselves, we as ego thereby subside and dissolve back into our being, and our being alone remains. So I hope that adequately answered that question also.